Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Late Night Talk episode 17. It is Mr. Cowboys fan, and well, let's just get right into it. I'm not going to even sit here and stall and ramble, before getting into this topic because the fact of the matter is that we know that this topic in particular definitely needs to be discussed with no stalling whatsoever. So, let's get into, the news that happened today. So, did y'all hear about, apparently, Dak Prescott, might not be 100% healthy, judging by an MRI on his knee? You know, um, I know. That was news to me, and I think that was news to a lot of people. I'm gonna be honest. I think that was news to Dak too. He's like, "What? I got an MRI that said that I'm not 100%. What? Are you kidding me? Wow." I'm sure that was news to even Dak, and he's the one who supposedly got the MRI. All right, so let's just get down to what it is. So, basically, some professional sports bettor, you know, apparently put out that there was an MRI on Dak Prescott and that said that he might not be 100%. Mind you, I just want to let you guys know that NFL media, NFL offseason media has been dry for I don't know how many weeks up to this point. All right. These are normally the dark ages of an NFL offseason where there's literally almost nothing to talk about. But I try my absolute best in these late night talk episodes to try to talk about something. But basically, you know, it's one thing when the Dallas Cowboys have drama that is happening every single day, and then drama that is complete fake news and people that are just trying to create the drama. Like what I heard apparently that Micah, I didn't want to discuss the topic because I felt like it might be a little bit of BS, but basically I heard that rumors that Micah Parsons was threatening to hold out of training camp for a contract. I can promise you that all that is hogwash, you know? And I was actually a little freaked out when, Micah Parsons was holding out of when Micah Parsons held out of voluntary off-season workouts, mandatory minicamp, and he came back for a little bit of OTAs, you know? It was either OTAs or minicamp that he came back for. But yes. All right. But I was a little freaked out. But then I had to be educated a little bit to realize that Micah Parsons has missed all of the off-season mini camps and workouts since after his rookie year. Obviously, he had to come to the mini camps and stuff when he was a rookie, especially rookie mini camp. Um, you know, so he was there and voluntarily there for those workouts his rookie year, but he hasn't shown up each of the last 2 years previously. Not in 2022, not in 2023. So I can woo-saw a little bit and understand that, okay, this is just what Micah Parsons does, you know? Like, I was just hearing about this. So, but the fact of the matter is, Micah is trying to let his body rest, let his body heal, so he can get himself rested and prepared for the long season. Now, expect him to be there at training camp. I promise you that none of this stuff about him holding out is going to happen. Now, CeeDee Lamb could hold out if Steven and Jerry don't open up them wallets, don't open up them bank accounts. So, either way, yeah. So, there was also another thing that I heard about, speaking of Jerry and them and their bank accounts. There was something that I just recently saw on Google about the real reason why Jerry Jones released Terrell Owens a long time ago. And it was just absolutely disgusting what I heard. I'm not going to explain it because I'm sure that a lot of you guys probably already know about the situation, but I'm just now hearing about it and what happened. So it's just absolutely disgusting what I saw, and it really makes me now sometimes question whether or not that this front office is truly serious about wanting to win a Super Bowl. So, anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, Micah, all that is a complete lie. Them saying this professional sports bettor talking about, Dak Prescott got an MRI and said that he's not 100% healthy. First of all, you are a professional sports bettor. Dude, who are you? Who are you, man? Who are you? Nobody knows you, fool. Alright? You're not Patrick Walker. Alright? You're not, any of these other Dallas Cowboy insiders. You're not, Fisher. I forget his name, bro. Golly. Mike Fisher. You're not Mike Fisher. If those guys said something like this, then okay, I would be a little, concerned and being like, well, that's unfortunate. Especially, like, doesn't this not sound a little, fishy to you a little bit when you think about the fact that we're talking about a guy who is in the midst of talks about a new contract extension? Don't you think that something like this would definitely damper that a little bit, just a little bit? Maybe not fully 100%. See what I did there? But yes, so none of this wouldn't have came out as just a little, a little suspect to you. So yeah, I don't think anybody, like, you guys shouldn't freak out. I'm not gonna freak out. All right, I might have, when I first heard about it, I might have made a, Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone impersonation, but out of sarcasm, I might have made that face and that impersonation trying to, sarcastically act like I was truly freaked out. But look, man, Dak Prescott is fine. I promise you he's fine. He actually is literally fine. No homo. But yes. So either way, nothing to worry about. All right. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here, as they say. So, but I will say, because this is going to be a relatively, shorter late night talk episode, especially after last night I was literally talking for 43 and a half minutes. So yeah, this is going to be a relatively short, late night talk episode, but I do want to talk about, the situation that, because obviously we're talking about Dak Prescott and MRIs and stuff like that, as far as his health and not being 100% supposedly, and it did have me thinking, outside of last year was the first time since 2019 that Dak Prescott played the entire season. The first time since 2019 that he was, managed to play the entire season, did not miss any time due to any type of injury. And the funny thing is, 2019, he wasn't even supposed to play that entire season. You see, obviously we know that 2019 might have been the most frustrating season to watch as a Dallas Cowboy fan. We didn't have any truly significant injuries throughout the year. We were a pretty relatively healthy football team that entire year. A lot of guys came back. We even made a couple acquisitions during the offseason to make us even better, including signing Randall Cobb for a year from the Green Bay Packers, signing Robert Quinn from the Miami Dolphins, and Kerry Hyder from the Detroit Lions. So, yeah, we didn't really have any significant injuries to guys, throughout the year. We were a pretty relatively healthy ball club that whole year. And we won the division and won 10 games the year prior in 2018 and beat the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card round. And we come back healthier than we had ever been throughout the whole year, and we missed the playoffs with an 8-8 record. We missed the playoffs with an 8-8 record. Like I said, I think a lot of Cowboy fans, I know we say that every year is frustrating, but that season might have very well been by far the most frustrating season that I've ever seen of the Dallas Cowboys. Because you want to know what's funny? We had a plus 124 point differential that season, despite missing the playoffs with an 8-8 record. And you want to know why that's the case? Because 6 out of our 8 losses that year were by 7 or fewer points. And then and then our wins, on the other hand, were all really, most of them were mainly by double digits, like 2 touchdowns or more, So that is a recipe for a, point differential like that, despite missing the playoffs. We could not win the close games that year. And so that was a huge problem for us. And I to this day I've watched the Cowboys since I was 8 years old, and that was the most frustrating season I'd ever seen of the Dallas Cowboys. We started that season 3-0, and then we lost 3 in a row. Then we won 3 of our next 4 games after that, and we were 6-4, and we were in the driver's seat to looking like we might win the division back to back years. The first time that's ever happened since the Eagles did it in 2001 to 2004. So, yeah, it looked like we were in the driver's seat. But then we lost 3 in a row. We lost to the New England Patriots the next week. All right. In a game where I felt like we got cheated, there at the end, with a controversial tripping call that the referees called on Suafilo. Suafilo, our former Dallas Cowboy offensive lineman at the time, they tried to call him for a very questionable tripping penalty, and that wound up costing us a first down that would have moved the chains. And who knows what would have happened had we have been able to extend that drive instead of having to punt to the Patriots again. So we lost that game, and then we got our teeth kicked in by the Bills on Thanksgiving Day. And then when we faced the Chicago Bears, probably the most pathetic and most disgusting game I've ever seen of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, we made Mitch Trubisky look like Lamar Jackson out there. And he is the furthest thing from him, especially that year. So, yeah, that was pretty frustrating. And then we beat the living daylights out of the, reigning NFC champion LA Rams in week 15, just to lose a critical game to the Philadelphia Eagles, who had practically no wide receivers. I know I may be over exaggerating a little bit, but Alshon Jeffrey wasn't there. Jordan Matthews wasn't there. Nelson Aguilar wasn't even there. They were all hurt. You want to know who their number one receiver was? A former quarterback in college, Greg Ward. Meanwhile, we're a virtually healthy team. If I'm not mistaken, Amari Cooper was out there, Zeke was out there, Michael Gallup was out there. The offensive line was healthy. Everybody was out there. On defense, Byron Jones was out there. D-Law was out there. Sean Lee was out there. Jalen Smith was out there. I think Lane Vander Esch might not have been out there, but he was dealing with the neck injury. But yes, we were a virtually very healthy team going into that game. A critical NFC East division game. And if you win this game, this would truly decide the NFC East if you win this game. But if we just win that game, we would have clinched the division title. But no, we decided to go out there and lay an egg in that game. Dak didn't play well. He struggled, but it wasn't really his fault, and I will get to that. So it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable what happened out there, man. And, it was just, It was disappointing. And then in the regular season finale, we proceeded to dominate Washington in the regular season finale, but too little, too freaking late. You should have handled your business against Philadelphia, and this game wouldn't have had to matter because they wound up handling their business over the Giants to win the division, just to get, of course, dropped off by Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in the first round of the playoffs. But I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, that was by far the worst, most pathetic and sorry football and, football put on display that I had ever seen. You know, and that is why, going game by game through and through of that season, it was the most frustrating, season I'd ever watched of the Dallas Cowboys. But I will say there is a reason why we had two critical road losses to the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles down the stretch in that final quarter of the year after the game against the Buffalo Bills on Thanksgiving. Because not very many people remember this. I know it because I watch Mark Holmes, especially at that time. I kept up with him a lot. Yes, it was set out there that there was an MRI. It was after the season was over. There was an MRI on Dak Prescott's throwing shoulder after the game against the Buffalo Bills on Thanksgiving, and he had injured his throwing shoulder. And he had the decision to, he had the decision to go through the surgery and it would end his season prematurely, basically, at that point, or ride through the rest of the season with that bad throwing shoulder. It's a similar thing that Cam Newton dealt with in the second half of that 2018 season for the Carolina Panthers. Remember how they started 6-2 and lost 7 of their final 8 games, and Cam Newton went from looking like a league MVP candidate to looking like who did it and what not? Well, that is why. Because he tried to play through a severely injured throwing shoulder that nursed him throughout the entire rest of the year. So, and that's pretty much what Dak Prescott was dealing with. Because right after the season was over, he got, surgery on his throwing shoulder after the season was done. And so, like I said, he had a decision to either take the surgery now and his season would be ended prematurely after that game, or he can ride through the rest of the season and get the surgery after. Well, I don't know if you guys recall, but our backup quarterback at the time, if Dak were to step aside for the rest of that season with the season-ending shoulder surgery, our backup quarterback at the time, if I'm not mistaken, was Mike White. Now, he showed a couple flashes when he was with the Jets, a little bit while ago, but the fact of the matter is Mike White is not a very good quarterback. So, yeah, if Dak would have took season-ending shoulder surgery after that game against Buffalo, our season would have practically been done as well. It would have been season-ending. Because y'all know for dang well that, Mike White was not going to be able to lead us to the promised land. So it is what it is. Dak Prescott was fighting through a injured throwing shoulder, a bad throwing shoulder in that final quarter of the season And that's why you saw his statistics, his numbers drop tremendously, you know, in those final 4 games. He looked like he could barely throw a football. And that's why, you know, things that were happening behind closed doors that we never found out about until after the season was done. But, you know, and the thing is that I've always, saluted and, condone players who, go out there and play hurt, play injured. I've always, given those guys a round of applause because that's what this game is about. Like, even when you're banged up, even when you're hurt and you're injured, if you know what's gonna be best for the team, you not being out there and another guy stepping in, or you just having to sacrifice your body and go out there and battle it out to the end. Even if it was all for naught, because unfortunately we didn't make the playoffs despite Dak Prescott's gutsy effort. So, yes, it's unfortunate, it's disappointing, but that's just the bottom line, and that's what happened. So, people, don't give Dak enough credit for how tough he is. The dude came back after 5 weeks, after 5 games, and, his, thumb on his throwing hand being fractured against the Bucks, and he comes back and he's got a pin in his thumb, a metal plate and a pin on his thumb on his throwing hand that he had to deal with for the rest of that season. The dude is tough, man, and he will gut it out, no matter what, because that's how much the dude is obsessed with football. He would want to get out there as soon as possible, bagging a severe injury like that. He will fight it out and gut it out to the very end, even with a severely bad throwing shoulder that he had near the end of that 2019 season that clearly was, hobbling him and limiting him, in those final 4 games. So, you can say a lot of things about Dak Prescott, but the one thing you cannot say about him is that he's not tough, that he's soft, that he's like he's not. He's tough as a cookie. Well, some cookies aren't tough, it depends on how you bake them, in the oven. Me personally, I prefer baking them for about 12 or 13 minutes because you get that soft and chewiness on the inside, but you still get that hard and that crunchiness on the outside. But that's besides the point. Okay. But yeah, people don't give Dak enough credit for his toughness out there on the football field. The dude was put on his back 39 times this past season and yet still was able to do what he did and managed to play throughout the whole season. So if that doesn't show how tough he is, I don't know what is. So, it's just, that's what it is. So, to close, that amateur that said what he said about Dak's supposed MRI coming out, about some supposed injury or whatever, is absolute hogwash. The Dallas Cowboys 2019 NFL season was by far the most frustrating season I'd ever watched with my own 2 eyes. And Dak Prescott, going through, probably not very many of you guys knew that Dak was playing those final 4 games with a severely bad throwing shoulder, because of the decision, that he had to make. So just proving how tough that he is, even if it unfortunately didn't, the outcome of the year didn't go the way we would have wanted it to and the way he wanted it to. So let me know y'all's thoughts and opinions on this, the MRI on Dak. Do y'all believe it's real, or are y'all on my bandwagon that is literally a bunch of BS? The 2019 season, was that the most frustrating? Like, because I'm still young and still kind of, you know, still, like watching the Cowboys for a little over a decade now. So I haven't, seen enough that maybe others have seen to really know the experience of a frustrating season. But that was the most frustrating season I'd ever watched of the Dallas Cowboys. And then, of course, Dak Prescott, with no one should dare question his toughness. So that's pretty much it, to all my audience, to all of Cowboys Nation. This is Late Night Talk, episode 17. Like and subscribe. And we are out.